It's difficult to describe how I really feel about this episode. It wasn't obvious whether I thought this episode was alright or bad by the time I finished watching it. When you really break it down, the quality of this episode is quite... lousy. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't entertained by this episode though. All the episode's shortcomings, of which there are a lot, are almost made up from the few entertaining aspects of this episode. The riffing material in this episode is second only to arachnids in the UK. My feelings are conflicted with this episode, the same way they are with that episode. I can't help but smile and enjoy the ineptitude and bizarre choices made when putting this episode together. Of course, my misconstrued taste doesn't excuse the episode's problems, but at this point, at episode 8, I wouldn't expect any more from this series. I think I'm just pulling out any enjoyment from the series, whether it's intentional or not. Either that, or this Tharunga conundrum set the bar so low for me that I think anything is an improvement. Despite my soft spot for this episode, I'm not going to praise it for its overall quality. Mainly the writing, editing, and the pointless PC gobble is enough to make my heart ache. So not really all that different from the other episodes. This episode is overall bad, boring, and... diddly. But it's funny. Sometimes. We begin the episode with the doctoring gang in 17-something Lancashire.
It's like a street party. Yeah, all the hipster pop-up happening.
What?
Apple bobbing! I love apple bobbing!
Since when? And why did you feel the need to announce this needless information? Maybe it's foreshadowing for the bobbing that'll be happening later. You won't be loving it after that. You know, I feel really bad for the set designers. I bet they spent hours trying to get everything in the precise place they needed to be. Though because of the way this opening scene is shot and edited, there is no way on earth you could ever appreciate the set design. Honestly, watch this scene and tell me there's a party going on in the background. I'd never be able to notice or even care if they didn't explicitly say. Compare this street party to the one in the series 10 episode, Thin Ice. Nothing is blurred out, there are so much more interesting and creative shots, and not a single frame is focused so hard on the characters that you can't make out a thing. Most episodes this series have this problem, but this episode is particularly bad for it. I'll explain in more detail when I get to it, but we have a witch dunking to get to. The whole town is summoned by one Mistress Savage, who commands them to attend some sort of ceremony, all while a suspicious 17th century Darth Vader lurks behind them. You know, I wish I could wear an outfit like that without people looking at me. Boy, was I born in the wrong year.
Whatever this is, I need you all to remember the most important thing about dips into the past. Do not interfere with the fundamental fabric of history.
Even if something's not right?
Yep.
Brilliant! You are a genius, a genius! The Senate wouldn't pass my plans, wouldn't let me build my new Rome. But if the old one is burnt, if it goes up in flames, they will have no choice. Rome will be rebuilt to my design. Brilliant, brilliant!
The whole town is gathered by a lake to witness a witch trial.
Satan stalks this land. We must continue to root him out and do whatever it takes to save the soul of our village.
Yep, definitely a savage.
If you survive, you are a witch and shall be hanged.
This is way too dark for me.
Yes, I can tell from your anxious expression. The Doctor, having established not to interfere with the fundamental fabric of history, interferes with the fundamental fabric of history by jumping in the lake and attempting to save the victim in a terribly edited scene.
Meet me on the other side!
So much for not interfering.
The bridge! Come on!
Who dares interfere with this trial? 35 witches we have tried and still Satan surrounds us. We shall not be stopped.
That was just... awful.
Doctor, we're here!
What? How did you get over the other side so quickly? This shot before thought established that this was a lake. What, was there a bit of land just out of the frame here? What's the point in the bridge over there then?
Is she alive? I'm sorry.
Now we have no way of knowing if Mother Twiston was a witch or not.
What are you talking about? Look at her. She's on the floor, not breathing. Her lungs are full of water. She's dead. She's not a witch, you... Sorry, it's just your head. It's not quite on right. It's slanted a little. Could you maybe move it a bit? It's gonna fall off, you know? Clearly, the Doctor isn't happy with Becca Savage. Yes, that is her name. The Doctor very easily convinces her that she is a witch hunter general after some more forced and unfunny comedy. Because of course. They head to Savage's castle as they learn she owns the land and is kind of a paranoid lunatic.
Horses are banned in Bilehurst. They are creatures of Satan. I had them all shot.
Hey, Doc.
Okay, I'm going to be honest with all of you. This is the worst first act of any television show I've ever seen. I have never felt so bored and drained watching the first 8 minutes of a Doctor Who episode until this one. I don't even have the words to describe my true, deep feelings for the first 8 minutes. Combine everything, the editing, the location, the acting, the focus, the colours, the constant talking, and the horribly ugly grey filter, and I just feel nauseous. There is no creativity. There is nothing that is explained that is actually shown to us, save the witch dunking. But what I've described to you about the episode is all that is said by the characters. Trying to pull out enjoyment from this lifeless, boring, pointless high school performance is like trying to find enjoyment out of staring at a fly in a jar. I hate this. End me. Lady, is that log still occupied? Put me in this. Drown me. End this so I don't have to put up with this boring terribleness.
What is the meaning of this?
Madam, I have come to your rescue.
King James.
You may prostrate yourselves before me, God's chosen ruler and Satan's greatest foe, come to vanquish the scourge of witchcraft across the land. Forgive them.
What is this? Is this what you call salvation?
What a peculiar ragbag of folks. And those garments. Are you actors?
We're your Witchfinders, sire, as we explained to Mistress Savage.
Witchfinder's assistant. So you must be the Witchfinder General.
King James saved this episode. The moment he enters the room, the whole episode lightens up like a dead garden suddenly sprouting into life. Okay, not that much. The episode still looks like an unclean cemetery on a rainy day, but this character had certainly helped me extend my life a little longer. And to think I was just about to pop it.
How fascinating.
King James throughout the episode is consistently charming, funny, and highly likeable, even when he threatens to kill innocents. That is so hard to do that I'm gonna guess that was a complete accident on the writer's part. And no, I don't like him just for the fact that he's practically upstaging the Doctor, though it helps.
Hold your tongue, lassie. Stick to snooping and leave the strategy to your king. This is no time.
I'm not sure what it is precisely, what I find so genial about this King James. I suppose we just have a lot in common. There's nothing that feels more captivating than to outweigh the charisma of the other lasses around me.
Also, I rather like the drama.
Or maybe it's just something about people being called James, I don't know. It's funny, because apart from a few lines here and there, King James isn't exactly that much different than any other new antagonistic character introduced in the series. So you'd think I'd hate him just like any of these other characters. But honestly, this actor just elevates this episode to a whole new plane of existence It just goes to show how much a talented actor, when given the right material, can make diamonds out of waste. He reminds me of Jack Robertson, except I actually like him for all the right reasons. Jack Robertson was lucky to be in an episode that was as badly put together as the one he was in. Otherwise, I think I would have liked him a lot less. King James stands on his own though, towering atop the garbage pile that is episode 8 in a divine holy state. Yeah, I like him that much. Sue me. I'd tell you what he was doing in Lancashire, but I think I'd let him tell you instead.
But first, madam, word has reached me of your battle against Satan, your crusade against witchcraft. But what I saw today convinced me you need assistance. This is no time for the weak. Satan preys on the innocent even while they sleep. Together, we must purify your land. Starting with the grandchild of the witch you tried today. A fine plan, is it not?
Moving on, we cut to Yaz checking up on... Can we not skip this bit? Alright, whatever. We're treated to a 53-second scene of Yaz checking up on the girl burying her grandmother before a terrible CG-looking mud tentacle gets promptly beaten up by Yaz with a shovel. Moving on, the Doctor, Ryan and Graham investigate Becca Savage's room for anything mysterious. Because I guess it just can't be witchcraft hysteria, can it? There has to be a conspiracy.
I love a conspiracy. Don't like conspiracies. Becca wasn't kidding. These are hard times for women. If we're not being drowned, we're being patronised to death.
Ah, of course. Well, it was only a matter of time.
I am Becca Savage, landowner of Bilehurst Crag. I have tried to be a benevolent leader, but it's very difficult in these times, especially for a woman.
I don't think you need me to tell you what's wrong with that line. Saying that women have it especially hard in the 17th century, coming from a woman that owns land and has control over an entire village, not to mention well-dressed, well-fed, and looking as if she's lived over the average life expectancy, is kind of hypocritical. Look, can we please stop with this especially hard for X group nonsense? It's not a competition. Sure, women had it hard in the 17th century. You know who else had it hard in... Everyone! The fact that we're not living in the 17th century anymore is proof of that.
It's very difficult in these times, especially for a woman.
In these times? Why would you say that? You don't know they're time travelers. And how would you know the future gets any better? Are you referring to the past? I'm pretty sure the previous times were either just as bad or worse than they are now.
Becca wasn't kidding. These are hard times for women. If we're not being drowned, we're being patronised to death.
Practice what you preach, Doctor.
Oh, stop whining, girl. You're useless. Oh, Doctor. Is all you can say for yourself? Stupid, foolish girl. That's the trouble with girls like you. You think you're tough, but when you're really up against it, you've no guts at all. Hundreds of lives at stake, and you lie there blubbing.
I get out. I can manage. I don't need your help, thank you.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Yes.
We're being patronised to death.
Like you would know what it's like to be a woman less than 0.1% of your life. I've already spoken about how I feel about Jodie in the past, but hearing her, as the Doctor, say this just... It isn't the Doctor. This isn't something any doctor would ever say. Yet for some reason, she stands by what she says. I won't dwell over it. All I'll say is that it's lines like this, lines that disregard everything we like the Doctor for, is the reason this Doctor doesn't work. These comments of women getting it the worst isn't a line written for the characters. They're lines written for the people making the show, trying to push their agenda. Not because they feel like they have to, but because it's expected of them. Because it's the sort of writing that wins Oscars and Emmys, never because it actually makes sense for these characters to say.
Don't worry, Graham. We're staying here and sorting it, even if I am just a woman.
Well, to be fair to King James, you are snooping.
You have my sword. And you have my bow.
And my axe.
Whoa. Is Becca seriously paranoid, man?
No, Yaz doesn't get axed by Ryan, but instead she tells the group what she saw regarding the girl and the mud tentacle. The doctor decides to go with Yaz to talk to said girl, while she leaves Ryan and Graham to keep King James from starting any witch hunts. Any opportunity to see more King James is fine in my book. We get to know a little more about his character and his personality.
Yeah. Belonged to my first Witchfinder general, Scotty, who saved my life in Berwick, then later betrayed me, so I had him shot. I'm sure you will serve me better. You may wear the hat.
You can trust me, sire.
I can trust no one.
You see what I mean? This guy just steals the show. I could watch him for hours and I wouldn't ever get bored.
Together, we will find where he is hiding and cut him out. By nightfall, every last witch in this village shall be destroyed.
Can we please get a spin-off of this guy? Despite Graham and Ryan's best efforts, they were not able to keep the bloodthirsty king from his witch hunt for long. In the meantime, the doctor and Yaz visit the girl, whose name is Willa, by the way, before she runs away, to see if they could get any idea what's going on. Here, we learn that Becca is actually related to her and the woman who she drowned. Funnily enough, I never actually knew this from their silent mumbles until I rewatched this part and listened very closely.
Maybe she was ashamed of the woman who brought her up.
Wait, you and Becca are family?
Cousins. We were all close till Becca married up. Left us all behind. Still, thought we'd be safe when the witch hunt started. And it just got worse and worse. Everyone turning on each other. Granny said it was only a matter of time before they turned on us. I didn't believe her.
Sorry, could you raise your voice a bit? Speak more clearly? My ears aren't what they used to be. Maybe it's a bit of a personal problem, but man, I've had so much trouble trying to catch everything that's being said, especially when people mumble their lines so you can barely make out what they just said.
Am I being weird?
A little bit, yeah.
I'm trying to do small talk. I thought I was doing quite well. It's work. Maybe I'm nervous. Or just socially awkward. I'm still figuring myself out.
What? Jeez man, I can understand Pingu better than this.
Here, Granny's specialty. It soothes the soul. Unless you think I'm a witch.
You know, this is making me want to watch Castlevania again. Sorry, it's just, this scene reminds me of the scene in Season 2 of Castlevania where the religious nutcase burns down this woman's hospital for being a witch. I don't know why Doctor Who has made me want something like that to happen in it right now, but I know it's a little off topic, but wow, it's a really good show. It's about witch hunting. Well, at least some of it is. But it throws in religious overtones and corruption, demons, vampires. It's fantastic traditional 2D animated, something I will most of the time admire one way or another. The characters, at least the heroes, aren't the best when they're on their own, but together they work very well.
Please, this isn't a bar fight. Have some class.
And I don't think you're going to find a more sympathetic villain in anything else for a while after watching it. And this is coming from someone who hasn't even played the games it's based on.
Your words are as empty as your soul.
Though, if you're queasy, you might want to stay away from it. It's pretty brutal. Sorry. This was supposed to be a Doctor Who video. Of course, I shouldn't overshadow what this episode offers that Castlevania doesn't. Like, King James. Castlevania don't have King James, and, funny hats? Oh, wait.
Completely normal. No magic. And no signs of any sickness.
You're wrong. I think I know what it is that's making you sick. I had it.
Whoa, jeez. Is Yaz talking now? Okay. Let's see what she has to say now.
When Izzy Flint turned the whole class against me, every day I'd wake up feeling this dread, fear.
How did you get rid of it?
I just took it. Had the year from hell. When I say hell, I don't literally mean hell. I mean it was really awful. And I told myself when I got bigger, I'd stand up to the Izzy Flints of this world.
I can't stand up to...
How touching? I get what this moment was trying to do. I'm sure we've all felt that feeling where no matter what we do, we feel like the entire world is against us, stopping at nothing to stomp us as far to the ground as possible. Getting back up from that is hard. The amount of mental strength you need when the world around you is falling apart is staggering. When it comes from a character like Yaz, though, it doesn't work. I'm not convinced that Yaz, who has a loving, working family, is the one to tell a somewhat depressed individual what they're feeling, especially from the 17th century. Doesn't even work anyway. So good job, Yaz. You're a credit. Either way, the Doctor was able to convince Willa, who doesn't really need to be involved in the story anymore, to stick with them. Meanwhile, we cut to Graham, Ryan and King James, who gives us a rather entertaining scene, where we learn about King James's dark and tragic history.
My father was murdered by my mother, who was then imprisoned and beheaded. I was raised by regents. One was assassinated, one died in battle, and another died in suspicious circumstances. There have been numerous attempts to kidnap me, kill me, or blow me up. It's a miracle I'm still alive.
You're not kidding?
No, I'm not.
There's also a bit of a connection happening between Ryan and King James, which is nice.
Look at him. Alphonse's loyalty is rare and pure. It's only a matter of time before I inevitably get let down.
Also, have you noticed a pattern here? I'm totally in on this episode when Graham, Ryan, and King James, and somewhat Becca from her cartoonish bombastic attitude towards everything, is on screen. But the moment it cuts to the Doctor, Yaz and Willa, I'm taken right out of it from how dull these characters are. My feelings for this episode are going back and forth as much as the plot is. Weird how we are 20 minutes in now and we haven't really gotten anywhere. All this episode is the Doctor running to one location to learn some new info, just to repeat the pattern until she has all the pieces for the puzzle. All this back and forth does nothing but hurt the episode. You really have to keep up because each scene barely lasts 2 minutes each. You very easily lose track of where everything is because before you can even make out what location the characters are in from the unfocused void that is the set, we cut immediately to a completely different location with characters doing something completely different. I'll say this again, previous episodes had this problem, but it's particularly noticeable in this episode. Whatever, the Doctor makes it to the grave where Willa's granny was buried, so maybe now we'll be getting somewhere.
Right, little sample. What aren't you telling me? Whoa! I am no longer disappointed. See? The mud is alive!
Sheesh, calm down, Yaz, we believed you. Well, at least we're getting somewhere now, because the Doctor comes across a zombie-like Willa's granny.
No, that's not mud. Some sort of alien matter filling her body and reanimating it. So it is pretty sentient. Hi, not Willa's granny. I presume you're just using the body to give whatever you are form. Better than tendrils, right? But really not right. Not cool. Is that why it went after Willa? Of course. Not to kill her, but to fill her.
You know, I'm just about sick of the Doctor being able to guess exactly what's happening just by looking at it. The Doctor's smart, but first of all, she isn't the Doctor. At least not the one I know. And second of all, she said, presumably. So she was just guessing as to what she was seeing, and just happened to be right. A bit like how she guessed that all the Kerblam men were about to send out explosive material to billions of people. A bit like how she guessed that feeding the Patingi an explosive would solve their pest problem. A bit like how she guessed that the source of the spiders were coming from the hotel, the same hotel that Yaz's mum just so happened to be working at. And a bit like the time she... Well, we haven't gotten to that point yet. All I'm saying is that sometimes the Doctor doesn't have the answer.
There are colonies out there. The human race has survived in some shape or form, but you're the only Daleks in existence. The whole universe is in danger if I let you live. Do you see, Jack? That's the decision I've got to make for every living thing. Die as a human or live as a Dalek. What would you do?
Sometimes he has to think outside the box, instead of just looking straight at it. Normally when you watch Doctor Who, the Doctor comes up with a solution that makes you think, why didn't I think of that? That was so obvious. But this series makes you think, that's it. That was so obvious. Everything this Doctor does is so predictable and mundane. There's an alien running amok. Use his own weapons against him. There's a meddling racist messing about with the past. Just send him back in time and fix what he broke. There's a small rat eating away at a ship. Feed him explosives and shove him into space. There's demonic looking creatures that lurk from a distance whose powers are deadly and kill with precision. Just leave him. Sorry. Back with the episode. Credit where credit is due. These zombie-like creatures are really creepy. The noise they make and the aesthetic are enough to make a squeamish person sick.
Oh no, you're not filling me. If you're that desperate for it, here, have it. Oh, delightful.
Before the Doctor can ask too much questions, the rest of the gang catch up and have a big scuffle. At this point, a lot of screaming, accusing, and headaches happen here.
This is beyond you. Alfonso, shoot them. Of course, Your Majesty.
No, Alfonso, don't!
In the air and in the air.
What the heck are you doing, you idiot? Do you not know how guns work? You deserved that. You were right, King James. It only was a matter of time before he disappointed you. Alfonso, the biggest failure in the 17th century. If the Darwin Awards existed back then, he'd for sure win it for the next century. No wonder everyone seems to die around you, James. With morons like that protecting you, it's a miracle you're still alive.
What's wrong with you people? What is wrong with this country? Why don't you do what normal people do? Get a gun, shoot things like a civilized person.
Of course, Your Majesty.
No, Alfonso, don't!
But what is wrong with this country?
Now you made them angry. They're getting stronger.
I wouldn't bet it, Doctor. A sloth could have taken him out. The next 2.5 minutes are pretty boring, so I'll brief it down. They run back into the forest away from the all-consuming mud zombies. There's more talking, a staple in the series, explaining things instead of showing them in a creative way, but whatever. Eventually, Becca Savage accuses the Doctor of being a witch, something that, let's be honest, we all pretty much knew would happen in the episode before it even aired. That's the gist of the next 2 minutes, but there are a couple things I'd like to point out in this bit. First of all, this is the point where I knew the editing was at its worst in the series. Just watch this and tell me where anyone is from each other.
Just with your alluring form and your incessant jabber, but I knew you were unnatural from the very start.
She was trying to save us, sire.
Thank you, Willa.
Are you sure you're not mistaken, Willa? Or are you in league with the witches as I first suspected?
She said she wanted to help me.
Who do you trust to save you? Your king? Your family? Whatever I have done, I did to save all of our souls.
What's really going on, Becca?
Hold your tongue or I will cut it out.
Honestly, I'm just waiting for a wide shot just to see them all facing away from each other. How can you edit something this badly? Why zoom in all the time? It just leaves you feeling claustrophobic and tense. Show more than just one character at a time. More than once, please. It's not that difficult. Just a small change in editing would improve my and probably loads of other people's enjoyment. Imagine this. Imagine this whole scene in one swooping take. The camera moving from one character to another, showing off the actor's skills and the creative filmmaking, taking advantage of the space and talent behind this picture. That's how I would attempt this scene, moving from one character to another as they speak, timing each swoop properly. Just use your imagination. Be creative. Stop with the still, boring profile shot after another. Show us what you can do. Impress us. Prove to us that you are a program worth watching. Because right now, I feel like everyone is phoning this in. I feel like everyone is doing the bare minimum. Not just the actors, but the crew, writers, and directors as well. The editing in not just this episode, but the whole series really annoys me. It's so bombastic and fast all the time. There is rarely a moment to stop. It desperately tries to keep things moving at a very fast pace, even when nothing is happening. It desperately clings to your eyes and squeezes the juice out of them, fiercely screeching that you notice it, without it realising that all this close-up cutting is only making me want to look away. Oh well, at least we get to see a bit more King James. The Doctor and him have a very interesting exchange after the Doctor gets tied up.
It must be comforting playing that role. Hiding behind a title.
Just as you hide behind Doctor. perhaps.
Why do I hate and love this episode? Is this what an abusive relationship feels like? One moment I hate them, but the next moment I'm all in? No holds bars? What the heck am I supposed to say? That line from King James was probably one of the best lines in Doctor Who history. I'm never going to forget that line. Sure, it doesn't go anywhere, but when I first heard it, I was like, dang, he got you there, Doctor. I must say, it's still a rather good exchange. And by good exchange, I mean, I like the idea of it. The Doctor gets James to question whether what he's doing is right, whether he is a truly good, passionate person. Sure, it could be another one of those Doctor being condescending to another white guy, but the fact that King James is a victim of history, and the Doctor is a time-travelling alien from the future, it makes for an interesting conversation, and what she says must be truly eye-opening to him. A man who has worked all his life to seek good, beauty, and the secrets of life, to be told that he probably doesn't deserve any of that from a time traveller who has seen it all, must be really devastating to him. But at the same time, with dialogue like, "You can't go hurting people just because you're scared to face up to the darkness inside you," and "Start with the mysteries of the heart," it kinda dilutes the whole exchange. What's this episode doing to me, man? While the Doctor remains helpless, the rest of the gang check up on the mud zombies. The mud zombies grab Savage's axe. Maybe that'll be important later? I can't remember. And just as well, Savage wasn't in her room when they came in. The Doctor gets put in the dunking log as she desperately tries to find out what's wrong with Becca Savage. There's not much point going through this scene. It's just another one of those moments where the Doctor asks a million questions and gets all the answers.
A girl called Izzy Flint bullied my friend Jazz.
What? Who's Izzy Flint?
When Izzy Flint turned the whole class against me.
Oh, it was when Yaz told her during their visit. I completely missed that until right now. I don't even blame myself. Even going through the episode, taking my time, I could never actually catch what she said there. I thought it wasn't anything too important. I thought my ears were just betraying me. But the fact that it was brought up again just proves that they're not being as clear and concise as they could be. Maybe it's a personal problem. Maybe everyone else who watched this caught what she said, but I sure as heck didn't, and this wouldn't be the first time.
What are you hiding, Becca? Sit down. Like, if you talk to me now, I can help. And whatever it is has only got worse, hasn't it? What was that?
It reacted to your touch, why?
Last request, I definitely get a last request. Lend us your hanky. There's loads in your room. And an empty medicine bottle. What were you taking the medicine for, Becca? I was right.
You certainly were, Doctor.
I love apple bobbing!
The Doctor makes it out. Sadly, she didn't regenerate. Oh well, whatever. Can't be too greedy. The Doctor is finally able to confront Becca Savage. Before she can ask any more questions, the mud zombies come for Becca. So the Doctor asks more questions. Oh, for goodness sake. Whatever. This scene is hilarious. What really got me was the fact that she single-handedly attempted to chop down a tree because she didn't like looking at it.
What happened?
I cut down her favourite tree. What? It was spoiling my view of the hill.
Yup. Definitely a savage. What are the odds of that tree being a prison for alien war criminals, huh? Not a very good prison either.
I cut down her favourite tree.
What? I don't understand.
All these witches! All this evil! I needed her help, I begged for it! For her to lance this evil out of me! She was too weak! I had to, she knew! I can't fight it anymore, Doctor! I have let Satan in! I have failed you, sire, yes! I am the witch!
I have absolutely no idea who she is, but now I've hit this volume, I can't really see it way back down, so I'm just gonna walk away shouting and then I won't have to.
So finally, after a loud, long information dump, the alien species finally consume and possess Becca Savage completely. This monster is known as the Morax. They're kinda lame. All they do is talk and act all great by bragging about how evil they are.
The mighty Morax army, captured and imprisoned on this pitiful planet for war crimes.
Who captured you? What war crimes? What are you capable of? Was it the whole species or just a select few? Are you all evil or is it a hive mind?
To fill this whole planet with rage and force and hate and more.
Is the shouting really necessary? Whatever. Just know that I skipped a good 30 seconds for all of you. Morax, blah, 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 fill your king, blah, 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 war cry. Instead of killing the Doctor and her friends, they leave them knocked out so they can eventually stop them later on, who are now treated to a terrible scene of just talking. Talking. I'm sick and tired of this stupid, boring exposition dump. It's just 2 whole minutes of everyone recapping what happened and the Doctor guessing what's going to happen next. The dialogue is downright awful as well.
From what Becca said, I'm guessing the Morax are royals with soldiers. Pretty brutal ones at that. Presumably exiled for war crimes, scrambled down into their primal form.
And they stay in prison until Becca Savage goes at that tree.
Well, it can't be much of a lock if she can break it.
It's old. Eroded over billions of years, presumably. But she must have broke it enough for part of the Queen's form to escape and infect her.
This really annoys me. All the pieces for the puzzle are here. Everything is put into place. But because of laziness or terrible editing or directing, everything just fits. The show treats its audience like babies discovering the world for the first time. It tells you everything, makes sure to lazily tie all loose ends no matter how lame or stupid the solution is. This isn't Doctor Who. This is Scooby-Doo. Right down to the Doctor calling her companions gang and unmasking villains.
According to my calculations, this ancient alien wood is like Semtex to Morax. That's why it made such a good lock. Right, help me break it up. Why? What for? Anti-Morax weapons.
Oh look! We're not going to bother showing what they said they were going to do. Never mind that though, look how dark it is now. It was pretty bright before. You sure King James is even still alive right now? Maybe you shouldn't have spent all that free time talking nonsense and actually do something.
Anti-Morax weapons. The smoke is toxic to Morax. Should be enough to fend them off, so you can rescue King James and I can get to the tree.
I guess that means you just never told your companions until nightfall what your plan was. It's not like you could have had the Doctor and gang do something and explain it at the same time. No, just explain what you're going to do, then cut a few hours to explain what you're going to do next. That's easier. Man, I hate this episode. Man, I flippin' hate this episode.
One more thing, Doc. Morax Finder General, back in command.
It's a very flat team structure. Ready for battle?
Yes, we are.
You don't have to, Willa.
No, you really don't. Don't mean to be rude, darling, but you've not really been a massive contributor to anything. The only thing you've told the Doctor and gang that's of any worth was that you're related to Becca. Something I'm sure the Doctor and gang could have figured out eventually anyway. In fact, you also ratted on the Doctor when she was accused of being a witch. If anything, you've been more of a detriment than a help. But whatever, you'd probably make good cannon fodder.
Morax is way more dangerous than Becca ever was.
Only I know the path up the hill. So you need me to lead the way.
She's right, Doc.
What, that hill? Just go up it. Can't be that steep. We don't need you to find a path for us. The Doctor and gang lead onward to save the king. King James is being held captive by the Morax tree. The king of the Morax is freed with the intention of entering and filling King James. I don't like that.
I may fear you, but I have my faith.
Wow, that looks bad. What follows is a horrible climax where you can barely make out a single thing that's happening. You can't even appreciate King James, it's so dark and miserable here. I've said it all before. The acting and editing kills it. Almost every shot is zoomed in, no one actually really does anything, and nothing makes sense. Why doesn't the Morax Queen use the axe against the Doctor? Why does she just let them have their way with the tree?
Those flames don't scare me, Doctor. Nothing scares me now.
Then do something, you pathetic excuse for a war criminal! How did the Doctor reactivate the prison? Maybe it was explained earlier in the episode, but from this shot I can't even make out what she just did. How did this even work? The Doctor said the prison eroded over billions of years. not that it was deactivated, right? Isn't the prison still eroded? What's to stop this happening again? The prison still worked, it just didn't work well, so did the Doctor just make it work better? Once the Doctor deactivates the prison, why does all the Morax get flung in there, except the Morax Queen? Well, I know why, it was for this to happen.
Yes, you will. Burn the way!
What woman? She was a witch. She confessed.
So you got what you came for?
I have.
Oh! We're doing this again, are we? What is this, the third, fourth time the Doctor has been unpleased with someone killing an alien? I don't get this. These aliens were, for all intents and purposes, completely irredeemable. Oh, what is your problem with people killing dangerous genocidal creatures? That dude nearly got killed by Tim Shaw, Jack Robertson's employees were killed and had his business at risk from those giant spiders, the Pating put the entire space shuttle full of patients at risks and the Doctor never even considered killing it if that would be a solution, and King James was almost filled by possessed mud. What were you expecting, Doctor? This war criminal to suddenly change her ways after billions of years trapped in a hell? War crimes are like the worst type of crime to commit. Come on, Doctor, cut these guys a break. Wow, this ending is worse than Kerblams. We end the episode like, you guessed it, any other, with the Doctor and gang heading back in their TARDIS. Well, at least it's short and sweet. King James owns up to what he did and apologises, so unlike the other people the Doctor was upset with, it seems like whoever wrote this episode knew King James was at least likeable enough to be redeemable. There is one odd thing about this ending though. So, in-universe, at the start of the episode, they head to a place named Bilehurst, a town close to Pendle Hill, but it was a place that seemed to be erased from history, due to the fact that Graham had said no witch trial was ever inducted anywhere near Pendle Hill. Of course, to answer this plot point, King James at the end of the episode says this.
Not one word of any of this shall ever be spoken, and even the name Bilehurst shall be erased from all records.
So the reason no one had ever heard of Bilehurst was because King James wiped out all records of it ever existing. Okay. Why? I don't exactly know what made King James decide to do that. And I don't know why the Doctor would just let something like that slide. I mean, it's such a minor detail, I couldn't care less, but it's just an odd detail I don't get. Whatever. Anyway, they leave and... well, the episode ends. How do I even come up with a conclusion to an episode like this? Okay, so, you know the previous episodes? It's that, except with one very good aspect to it. I'll give Alan Cumming his due. Without him, I don't think I would have gotten through this episode. He is really the only thing that makes this episode worthwhile. Even then, I will admit, King James, by the end of the episode, just sort of descended into a person so desperate to find a witch that it diminished the enjoyment a little. It was at least still nice to see an actor that actually looks comfortable in a role, more comfortable than all the main characters, which is really saying something. I think I've made my opinion on this episode very clear by now. If you're going to watch it for King James. If that isn't enough, don't watch it. Okay, look, don't watch this series, honestly, just don't. It's not good. There's probably thousands of better shows that deserve your time, and if there isn't, there's loads of other activities you can be doing. I like a select few things in the show, but overall, none of it is worth your precious time. I'm still reviewing this series on my limited spare time, and all of it feels wasted. It's not even enjoyable enough. Don't be like me and watch it. I just want this to be over. Oh my goodness, we still gotta do this. Okay, whatever. Okay, you know what time it is now. It's bingo. Blah, 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 blah. Stick 'em on. There we go. Oh, look. Very nice. Very cool. Almost there. I don't care. Bye.